And then you've got, so 10 employees and shift change, I don't know, and you know there's gonna be, I know the residents don't have many cars, but they have visitors. So, that's my 2 cents.
I have actually a question for staff. With regards to parking, obviously it's all about parking. I think we're all happy with the design, the layout, and those sort of things. And we know, we've, as you mentioned, we've addressed this this area before with parking, and it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. In that 22 spaces, have we allotted for the minimum handicap is in there? You've got that allotted for those 2 that are in there. Is that? I'm not counting spaces here. Is that above the 22? Is that in addition to those 22, or is that's included in that?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that is included in the overall parking ratio.
So obviously staff won't be using those, and probably a lot of visitors may not be using those. If they're getting possibility. Yeah. So that you tighten things up. I like the green space. I hate giving up green space. They're above the minimum. On the flip side, I hate to penalize them for what's going on right now to the west, and I think further to the east with the school. I would almost lean, as much as we need that, as that area needs the parking. I don't know that they'd be a big parking user, so I'm almost, I would almost lean towards the applicant to not withhold that.
I think I have guidance on the motion. So you're saying you're in what the applicant is
to not give up those spots into what you, to be more clear.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, to be more clear to what you were.
I want to make a motion here, if no one else is. Okay. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2018-0013 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of April 5, 2018, with the following modification. That we strike condition 1.3E, requiring that additional row of parking.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval on H-2018-0013, the cottages, with modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're approving the CUP tonight. Sorry, the hearing outline is inaccurate.
Yeah, so we are approving, we are not recommending
to approve.
approval.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
So I move to approve.
There you go.
Do I need to say it all over again? Of city approve file number H-2018-0013 for the hearing date of April 5, 2018, with the following modification that we strike condition 1.3E.
And I'll still second that.
All right. It has been moved and seconded to approve file number H-2018-0013, the cottages. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we will open public hearing for item H-2018-0016, fire station number 6. And we will begin with staff report.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as you said, this is for the fire station number 6. It is an application for annexation and zoning. This property consists of 1.99 acres of land, which is currently zoned RUT within Ada County. It's located at 1435 West Overland Road. To the north is West Overland Road and Camper World, which is zoned IL. To the east is a single-family residence and what's called the Boise Party Barn, zoned R8. To the south is recently approved Star Point Apartments, also known as Linda Road Apartments, zoned R15. To the west is vacant or undeveloped property, also zoned RUT within Ada County. There is no current history on the property within the city of Meridian. The comprehensive plan and future land use map designation is medium-density residential. The applicant has applied for annexation and zoning of 1.99 acres of land with an R8 zoning district. The proposed zoning is consistent with the policies in the comprehensive plan and the future land use map designation of medium-density residential. The applicant proposes to develop a new City of Meridian fire station on the property, which includes an apparatus bay, housing areas for staff, and offices. Once the property is annexed, the applicant intends to apply for a conditional use permit and the certificate of zoning compliance and administrative design review for the property to establish the fire station use on the property. The applicant has provided a conceptual site plan indicating the access points, circulation, parking, and building footprint of the property. With the conditional use permit application, the applicant will need to submit a site and landscape plan that meets the applicable UDC sections. There is a 25-foot landscape buffer required along Overland Road. Internal parking lot landscaping will also be required. We'll have to narrow those details down a little bit when we get a more detailed site plan for the project. Accessibility, the applicant is, again, this is a conceptual site plan, but my understanding of how this site plan will function is that the fire truck will come in here, garage door on the south side of the building, another garage door on the north side of the building. Fire trucks will exit. Utilize this for their exit when their sirens are on, and this will be just to pull back in the fire truck in a non-emergency situation. As I said, this is conceptual. They are showing some parking and some landscaping on the property. Staff's really minor conditions with this. The applicant has an issue with staff's condition to kind of line up the access road, the entrance, if you will, with Camper World to the north, and kind of make those line up a little bit better and share an access with the property that's directly to the east that will develop in the future. I, not being a fireman, don't know exactly what issues there may be, and so I'm hoping that the applicant and anyone here from the fire department can answer some of those questions and maybe fill you in on how that will work. With that, staff is recommending approval, and I'll stand for any questions you have.
Hey, Josh, the reason you're looking at wanting to line that up is because that land to the east, when it develops, there'll be yet another access. So that's basically, there'll be two right on top of each other, plus the emergency exit.
And I didn't explain that, but yeah, typically staff, Overland's a designated arterial road, heavy traffic. The fewer access points we have to those arterial roads, the less the traffic slows down and gets backed up. So our hope is that we can share an access and that the existing access for that property will be eliminated with a shared access point on the property line.
And I get, maybe this is a question for the applicant, but then how does the shared access work with a fire station?
Got it. And that's I'm sure they'll want to cover that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
For the record, Charlie Butterfield, Division Chief of Training, or Division Chief of Planning, Meridian Fire Department. So a little history on this piece of property. It was purchased by the Meridian Rural Fire Protection District in 2012 for the purpose of putting in a fire station, and now we've essentially gotten to the point with responses in the area and future development that's been approved in the area that we need to build a fire station there. So we have learned with our other 5 fire stations that putting fire stations on arterials is not the best business. So about 1.5 years ago, as we knew we were getting ready to put a fire station over here on this piece of property, we started to actually look at trying to take it off the arterial, and we had investigated putting it over in Bear Creek Park on Stoddard, and we got a lot of very, let's say, negative responses from the community of placing a fire station in the park. So we did come back to this piece of property that has been owned, recognizing that we are putting it on an arterial, but we do own the property. Some of the concerns with staff's recommendation of wanting to move that is sharing an access with fire apparatus and unknown what that next piece of property is going to be developed as, and having to share that access with potential public is a concern. Fire apparatus are big, they're heavy, and we don't really want people in the way of them when we're coming and going 24 hours a day. So we would prefer to keep this as noted here, recognizing that what staff is trying to recommend, but we feel that with the emergency services that we deliver, it's just not applicable. I would ask that that be stricken. Okay. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question, Madam
Okay.
Chair. When you're returning with fire engines and whatnot, do you typically activate the emergency signals and turn them red?
No,
Obviously when you're leaving on a call, you do, but when you're coming back in, do they typically?
we do not.
Okay, because I don't know if that would help that situation that you're.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we flipped the building and had the more common in and out access a little farther away from the access we know is probably coming on the other property, and that emergency access be the only one that's close to the one on the east property. It would be the lesser used one, maybe. Because I can see where Josh is coming from. I mean, when that property develops, you're going to want those streets to line up so there's not so much, people trying to get out in that left turn lane and meeting each other to get across. But is that a acceptable thought, or is this set in stone?
I still think, Madam Chair, members of the commission, I think that either way, we still are going to have unknowns of who we're sharing that with.
No, I'm not saying share the access. I'm saying flip the building so your exit, where your fire trucks exit, is the one that's closer to what will be their access, because, so you don't have your common, where you're parking and everything is, your common area coming in and out of cars so close to where there's probably going to be another access to Overland.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, one concern with flipping that is that we did have, as we're exiting, as it is right now, we're exiting as an emergency. We would, if we flipped it, I think we would be then more poised toward being head-on to campers coming out of Camping World.
Okay.
So we had it in that way so that as we're coming out, we're not directly
Facing them.
facing
Yeah.
campers coming out
Okay.
from Camping World and from their access point right across the street. And then also we would have signalization on here as well, as we do with all of the other fire stations. So the way that it is right now, we can stop traffic, I think, pretty well, and then also stop traffic prior to the turn-in to Camping World, so we wouldn't be having issues with that. I think it would create more challenges directly across from Camping World's entry to have our emergency apparatus responding.
Yeah, so I guess going back to what I was talking about, I have absolutely no idea how any of this works. And so I'm glad that we have somebody here that does.
Right.
Some of this goes back to the way you guys have looked at this and where you're going to put your emergency signals on Overland Road. And I didn't have any of that information. And so that's,
Okay. Yeah, because
staff may have fallen short in our recommendations.
Okay, yeah, because the property to the east, I mean, we don't know that they're gonna have an exit close to right there, because all I'm trying to avoid is, you got somebody trying to, in a non-emergency situation, exiting, taking a right out of the fire station, and somebody, just to the east of there, taking a left, and that's gonna be your point of problem. But I think the property to the east, if there's no plan there, then they'll have to navigate around that.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, the reason why we're bringing this up to you, and we talked about it a little bit at our earlier meeting we had, is, as Josh alluded to you, once annexation is done, they only have to come back through a conditional use permit. Well, access in our code is typically something that the council discusses and makes a waiver or acts on access points or arterials. It's typically not a function of the commission. And so we wanted at least daylight that issue for you as you make your recommendation, so that when council, this goes to council, they can weigh in on the access. So when the conditional use comes back to you for approval, we've already worked out that, and we're not bringing that up in that staff report. So that's really why we're bringing that up to you this evening, is because we just want to get that out on the table, that with this annexation, the access has been addressed. If council approves it the way this is, we have that on record, and we don't have to deal with that issue as we move through the conditional use process.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have anybody signed up to testify in this application, but is there anybody in the room who would like to do so? Sure. Please state your name and address for the record.
For the record, Gunnar Gladix at 1101 West Grove Street in Boise, Idaho, applicant's architect. Just wanted to point out a couple other small technical items. Josh, if you could go to the auto turn radius drawing. That's it. One of the other items that we were concerned about was the turning radius of the engines coming back to the station. If we had queuing up in the right side lane to turn right out of the shared access way, the engine coming back to the station wouldn't be able to enter the site with the 25-foot width that we've been allowed from ACHD. So that would be one of the other concerns that we would have in a shared access point, would be the ability to get in and provide good response times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with there being no other public testimony and I assume no other applicant rebuttal, could I get a motion to close the public hearing on item H-2018-0016?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on H-2018-0016. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wilson.
I'll lead off, I suppose, again. I think it looks good. Now that I understand the rationale for this design a bit better, and the fact that this isn't a typical access. I mean, this is a specialty access, and there's a specific reason why they need it this way. I'm leaning towards the applicant in striking that condition, but I would like to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think we let the fire department do what they do, and I think they know best on their accesses, and I agree. I don't think it's going to be a highly used thing, so I guess so far, our 2 cents to city council is to let the accesses be as they are.
And I would agree, and I think also that parcel to the east, when that gets, when that develops, when that's annexed, we can take the access, I mean, we'll have to look at making the access to that further to the east. To have some separation, so I would agree to with my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, I tend to agree as well. I think if it was to share a driveway, you run the risk of, if it's a residential neighborhood or something, you've got kids that want to go see a fire truck and kind of stall some things out. Could be dangerous.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Holland.
After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H-2018-0016 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of April 5th, 2018, with the following modification of striking the staff recommendation to align that drive with the access point across the street.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval on H-2018-0016 with modification. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So for two.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for item H-2018-0017 Wells subdivision, and we'll begin with the staff report. Good luck.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is an application for both annexation and zoning and for a preliminary plat. This site consists of approximately 14.8 acres of land, currently zoned RUT, located at 2350 East Amity Road. To the north are residential properties in the Messina Meadows subdivision, zoned R8. To the east is the future Castle Creek subdivision, zoned R8. To the south is East Amity Road and residential properties in the White Park subdivision, which are zoned R4. And to the west are single-family residential properties in the Paisley Meadows subdivision, which are zoned R4. Because this is annexation, there is no current City of Meridian history on this property. The future land use map designation is low-density residential. The applicant, as I said, is requesting for annexation of 14.8 acres of land with an R4 zoning district. Proposed zoning is consistent with the text of the comprehensive plan and future land use map designation of low-density residential. The preliminary plat consists of 38 building lots and 11 common lots. The plat is proposed to develop in one phase. Just for orientation's sake, north is to the right, and then your Amity Road is over here on the left side of the page. So the gross density of the subdivision is 2.5 dwelling units per acre, and the net density is 4.08 dwelling units per acre. The average lot size within the development is 10,664 square feet. There is an existing home and outbuildings on the site. The home is proposed to be included on a Lot 6, Block 1 in the subdivision. Any outbuildings that do not meet the required setbacks of the R4 zoning district shall be removed or relocated. Development of this site is required to comply with the dimensional standards in the UDC 11-2A5 regarding the R4 zoning district. Staff has reviewed those and found them to be in compliance with those standards. An ACHD traffic impact study was not required for this project. Access to the site is currently provided via East Amity Road, which is an arterial. The access for the existing home will be terminated with the development of the proposed subdivision. The plat as submitted does not depict direct lot access to Amity Road in accord with UDC 11-3A3. Access is proposed from South Zopiro Avenue, East Melwood Street, and East Dalby Street as all considered local residential streets. So top of the page here is an access point to the currently being constructed Paisley Meadows subdivision. It would be to the east here on the south side, on the bottom of the page, to the Castle Creek subdivision, and then through a bridge that will be constructed into the Messina Meadows. This out to Amity is a pedestrian access. So as I said, there's no direct lot or subdivision access to Amity Road. There are 3 common driveways on the plat that serve a total of 7 residential lots. A landscape plan was submitted with the application for the area proposed to be platted. A 25-foot wide landscape buffer is required along East Amity Road, which is considered a residential arterial. A 10-foot wide compacted gravel shoulder meeting the construction standards of the Transportation Authority, and landscaping or other vegetative ground cover is required along East Amity Road. Multi-use pathway, so I guess just by way of explanation, the staff report as it currently reads requires there to be a 10-foot multi-use pathway along the frontage of Amity Road. Our pathways master plan shows that there is a 10-foot multi-use pathway to be built. For whatever reason, staff did not get a 10-foot multi-use pathway with Castle Creek on the east side of this project, nor did we get it with Paisley Meadows on the west side of the project. So the condition in working with the Parks Department and the Pathways Coordinator, we have come to the conclusion that we do not want to require there to be a 10-foot multi-use pathway along this section, because it would be rather silly. So the condition should read a 5-foot sidewalk along East Amity Road, length of the Amity frontage. So that would be a condition, and I can tell you what number that condition is here in just a second if you'd like.
Okay.
We'd like to modify that condition to just be a 5-foot sidewalk. Open space for the development, 10% qualified open space is required. The applicant is providing 1.48 acres, which is 10. Let me back up. The site is 14.88 acres in size, so a minimum of 1.48 acres of qualified open space is required. A total of 1.85 acres or 12.5% qualified open space is being proposed, which consists of half the street buffer along East Amity, micropath, and internal common open space areas, and parkways that comply with that requirement. All developments consisting of 5 acres or more are required to provide a minimum of 1 site amenity. 1 additional site amenity is required for each additional 20 acres. Because this is under 20 acres, just 1 amenity is required. The applicant is providing a shade structure or gazebo on Lot 9, Block 2, and as well as pathways through internal common areas in accord with that requirement. The applicant should coordinate with the Public Works Department on street lighting along Amity Road. The applicant did provide some conceptual elevations for homes to be constructed within the development that appear to meet the architectural standards that the city has, and all fencing should comply with these standards in the UDC. 6-foot tall solid fencing is proposed along the south boundary of the site, at the back edge of the buffer along East Amity Road. Did not receive any written testimony on this application, and staff is recommending approval. I'll stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for staff?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Casanelli?
did you have that condition?
Yeah, I'm good right now.
Madam Chair, you can go ahead and have the
Yeah,
applicant come
we'll
up.
come back to-
We'll
I-
circle back on what those
Does
conditions
the
are.
current plat as shown show a 10-foot walkway there? Just shows a 5? Okay. Next, I'm thinking where that pathway comes out, it might be nice to have a little extended area there. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Good evening, Commissioners. Matt Schultz, 8421 South 10 Mile Meridian. Here on behalf of MWT LLC, we're happy to be developing the Mr. Wells property. It is R4, which is a lot better than apartments, which I've been doing lately. We don't have to talk about parking, which is good. And thanks, Josh, for catching that condition, because it went right by me. That was in there. I would have said something earlier about along Amity. Doesn't make sense to do a 10-foot pathway when there's nothing on either side of us. But we do have a little 10-foot connection between, as you see there, going out to Amity, because there's a sewer line through there that goes through our site with some manholes. So we're providing that for a combined access slash, manhole access slash pathway. So that's why that's 10. But it's an interesting site. When we first submitted it, we had an extension out to Amity Road. You connect to your frontage, and that's what you do. And we were kind of over-accessed in that we had four different connections. But for marketing and other things, that's just what we thought we'd do. When we did submit it, ACHG called me and said, you know what, you can't connect it, Amity. And my jaw dropped. I'm like, really? And they have a policy that says on arterials, which this will be a 5-lane someday. You have to prove that you need that access to connect to it. And obviously, with two other existing and one future stub street, that was a losing argument. And then she said, and by the way, if it does go through, there'll probably be a signal there because we line up across the street with the White Bark subdivision, which connects into Sky Mesa and beyond. And it would be a very popular intersection with people coming out of Tuscany. And I said, okay, we'll take it out. So it's a little bit different in that regard, a little quirky, but it still works. Since we do have those other 3 accesses, we hope the developer to down to the east there, he has an approved plat with 19 lots that has a connection to Amity, which would be good. And we are building the bridge this fall to connect into Tuscany. That developer put up half in a trust when they did Messina Meadows, whatever phase, and with ACHD, and we build it and combine those funds, and it'll be built for interconnectivity. But it blends right in. The only quirkiness is Mr. Wells is staying. He's been there for 35 years, and he'd like to continue to stay there. We've bought everything but his acre around his house, and he's going to fix it up. We're doing the landscape buffer in front of him, and he's going to take access internal instead of external. It actually works pretty well, for him to stay there on a big lot. There's a sewer line right through the middle of our site that the developer of Sky Mesa negotiated. He didn't want to buy his property, but he wanted to buy a sewer easement to free up some capacity issues to the south. So that's why that road on the east kind of has a little bit of a meander to it. There's actually a sewer line that was defined by somebody else that we're following there that's underneath that road that goes up to that bridge connection. So we think it's good. They're big lots. It'd be a nice complement to the neighborhood. Very coveted area, South Meridian. We're anxious to get going, and with it being R4 with deeper lots and wider lots, it's going to be a good little sub. So we agree with staff's recommendations for approval, striking that 10-foot path along Amity. But other than that, we're just asking that you approve it as submitted. So thanks.
Any questions for the applicant? All right.
Thanks.
You're off the hook. The people that have signed in for this application have indicated they do not wish to testify, but has anybody changed their mind and would like to testify in this application? Okay. So I assume the applicant does not want to come forward again. All right. So at this time, could I get a motion to close the public hearing on item H-2018-0017?
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think this is a fairly straightforward application. Love it when we see R4s. Don't see them all that often. And I think we go with ACHD's recommendation. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
There's 3 other accesses out of it, so I think we're good there.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wilson.
If you're finished. No. I live in that area. I live in Bellingham Park, which doesn't necessarily connect to it, but it's pretty gosh darn close, and I'm glad that they're filling that out, doing that infill. I like that they're bigger lots. I think there's a nice mixture of all sorts of different houses in that sort of area between sort of bungalow type houses in Tuscany, regular houses, some smaller lots. So I like seeing kind of the bigger mixture, and yeah, I like this project.
Yeah, I think we normally, would have liked to seen a little heavier on amenities, but on the other hand, the Y is going in right across from, there's going to be plenty of things to go do, plenty of space, so.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Holland.
I don't see any concerns either. I think this is a pretty straightforward project.
Right.
I would have to echo my my fellow commissioners, and there was no one question I had was the existing structures, but there was no objection to that, so I don't think that's a problem. So,
okay. All right,
Madam Chair.
Oh. Yeah, it's your turn.
Commissioner Casanelli.
If it's my turn tonight,
Your turn.
Madam Chair, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number, trying to get my page back here, H-2018-0017 Wells Subdivision, as presented in the staff report on the hearing date of April 5th, 2018. With the following modifications. What was that, Josh? What was the 6.1.3 to go with a 5-foot sidewalk?
So it's 60. Josh, turn your mic on, meeting. It should be 6.1 point, so all 5 of those highlighted conditions.
Okay, so to include conditions 6.1, point 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Alter it to be 5-foot pathway instead of 10.
Yes.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of H-2018-0017 with modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, before we adjourn this evening, I do want to bring up a couple items for you. First one is June 7th is the city picnic, which all of you will be invited to. But that is our first hearing date for our June hearings, and we're not going to be scheduling that. So as time moves, as we get closer and closer to that date, staff will be monitoring as to whether or not we need to have a special meeting to address any land use applications that come through our office. Currently, right now, we are scheduling for the May 17th hearing. Not terribly heavy at this point. When we met with the chair today at 4:30, she had brought up another excellent point about the July 5th P&Z hearing, which is the day after 4th of July. And so we would like all of the commissioners to start thinking about your vacations, your schedules, so that if we have to adjust our P&Z hearing times in June, we can act on that and make sure to notify our friends in the clerk's office as to those special requirements. We have several options. We could either have a special meeting on the 31st of May. We could have it the 14th of June. There's also been talk that if we cancel the July 5th hearing, that we would have 2 special meetings in June, the 14th and the 28th. So please, I would give you some homework this evening. Look at your calendars, figure that out, and then hopefully we can have a plan of attack during our next commission hearing, or feel free to email me and we'll get something in the books and get it scheduled.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Chris, could you send out an email to our fellow commissioners that aren't here to check their calendars?
And then it'll be a good reminder to respond to your email.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Anybody else have anything to say? Commissioner Wilson?
I move to adjourn this evening.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
I think that's our early.